Hello, it's a bit of a later record than usual because summer has been in all capitals today. It was about 37 degrees this afternoon, too hot to stand in a garden and talk to you about yarn, so I've been waiting for the sun to go away. It is still unnecessarily warm, so I look overheated and crumpled because I am. However, this did come off the loom yesterday. This is the two hand-dyed merinos from two companies I can't remember. I'll put it in the description. I meant to bring the labels out, I'm just not that organised. So it's not wet finished, but it has shrunk in a little bit as I hoped it would. So I did an open weave on this, fairly open weave, not like a hugely open weave, but a fairly open weave on this because under tension, this warp looks quite thin. So if you weave to it looking thin, when you take it off tension, it'll all compress up and your weft will get all squished. Oh, and I've still got my scrap yarn in place. Anyway, I'll show you what I mean, and then I'll tell you why I've got scrap yarn in it, because I normally remember to take the scrap yarn out before I show you things. Let me find this nice aqua one will do. So under its own just gravity, I don't know, under its own, if it's not under tension is what I'm trying to say. It's quite a thick yarn. Well, it's not that thick, but it's reasonably thick. But then once it's under tension, it gets quite thin. So when you've got it under tension on the loom, it looks thinner than it is. So it would be easy to make quite a crowded weave by weaving too close together. So I tried to keep the weave open, and it has given me this lovely balanced weave. So I will get that wet finished. My scrap yarn I will take out. So that's just there because when you tie your warp onto a loom, you take little bundles of thread, and all of those threads end up in a single knot, so you get V shapes, you get a little row of V shapes. So before you start weaving, you want to clear those V shapes out so that your warp is nice and straight. So I do that with scrap yarn, just by weaving a few rows in scrap yarn that I pull out later. Other people use tissue paper or bits of cardboard or plastic, and some people don't bother at all. It's all personal preference. So that will get wet finished, possibly for next week. I don't know how much I've got on at the minute. I have had quite a bit on, which is why I didn't get a chance to play with this, except it's stuck in my bag. That would have been a great reveal if it had worked. I didn't get a chance to play with this until today. It got stuck in my bag again. This arrived last Thursday, and I assembled it last Thursday, but I haven't had a chance to sit down and actually play with it until today. So there is my very first triangle. It's an open weave, hello, because this yarn is a little bit too thin for this spacing, for this nail spacing, which is fine, it's just a practice piece. I can double the yarn and make it thicker. That's how that works. This yarn is an acrylic that I've had kicking around in my stash for approximately 25 years. I keep using bits of it for things and it doesn't seem to ever want to run out. So I thought that might be a good way to start. Now, I had a little bit of trouble with the tutorial situation on how to use this. And I looked at maybe 3 and I just kept ending up in a real tangle. One of them had a really particular and peculiar way of handling how to wrap on these pegs. So basically, I'm going to explain this really badly for you. You start on one corner, there's my starting point. You take your yarn all the way across and then around the nail and then all the way back, and then you take it up. And it's from that up that you start weaving. You get a crochet hook and you go in, you know, over and under the yarn and bring that loop down and then stretch that loop all the way over to the other peg. Did I explain that badly? Anyway, the point is, if you do something on this side, any weaving you do on this side, once you get that yarn pulled over to the other side, that bit of weaving's already done. You just have to do the next bit. And so what you do on one side happens on the other side. So it's really quick. It's really satisfying. But I did find the first tutorial I followed had a technique where you take the yarn all the way across and then do like a figure 8 around 2 pegs and bring it back, and it wasn't working for me, and I couldn't understand why it wasn't working for me. So I looked at a couple of other tutorials and they also weren't working for me. And that's not to say they're bad tutorials, it's just to say they didn't work for me. I think there's room for everybody's tutorials because everybody learns in a different way. And I say this as someone who's only, I think, published 1 tutorial, so you know, I'm definitely an expert on the subject. Anyway, eventually it sunk into my brain that I should try maybe the actual company that made the loom. And brilliant tutorial, fantastic. My only problem was I got to the point where I had 1 nail left in the middle up here, but 3 left at the bottom, which is not how it's supposed to work. And I watched the tutorial back about 6 times, trying to see what she was doing with all these spare nails at the bottom. And then I realised I'd actually missed a nail up here. So I just unhooked everything and moved it over, and it was fine. That's why it's a little bit bendy, but that's okay. We don't mind. Things are a little bit wonky, that's life. So I'm very pleased with my first triangle. It's really satisfying to do, and it is so quick because, as I said, if you do a weave on this side, it's automatically done on this side. So I am looking forward to trying this with my good yarn, but I am going to run a few more practice triangles just to make sure that I really know what I'm doing before I break into the good yarn. And then I'll figure out what to do with a load of practice triangles. Now apparently, according to the Kisslooms lady, I can just pop this off the nails and not do anything other than that. But other tutorials say you must so either slip stitch this top row. These, not so much a problem because these will hold in place. But apparently these loops can pull out. So what I might do is just very carefully pop it off the loom because when I do my triangles for my triangle shawl, I'll be crocheting along those edges anyway. I'll just handle them with care and we'll see how I get on. But that is all I have for you this week as the light fails. I have chickens to feed. They're kind of around somewhere. I can't let them out by themselves at the minute because there's a fox. So if I'm outside, they're outside so that they can have a bath and a scuffle around. And they're probably, to be fair, sitting on the food bucket because I have not fed them yet today because I am unkind to my chickens. Don't believe them. Don't believe a word those chooks say. You have a lovely rest of your week. Take care of yourself and I will see you next time. Bye for now.